I the a-hole for canceling our honeymoon and considering divorce when my wife made out with a female friend at our wedding? I, 24 male, recently got married this last week to my wife, 24 female. Ex? Let's call her Sarah. Me and my wife have been together for 4 years and have only had one major issue. My wife is a drinker. She only drinks about once a week, but usually drinks way more than she can handle. When we first got together, I realized she has a habit of making out with random women when she is drunk. Now, I don't think this is sexy or exciting. I myself view this as cheating. After the second time I caught her about a few months into dating, I sat her down and told her that absolutely would not be okay as long as we are in a committed relationship. It took many conversations for her to understand that I was serious and viewed it as cheating. She promised to stop, but insists that she didn't cheat. She was good about cutting back on drinking and being more mindful of me. However, over the years, I caught her kissing 2 other women. Once a random acquaintance, and the last time about 2 years ago was with her best friend turned maid of honor, Brooke, 24 female. Important piece of information after I caught her the last time, I had a complete and total breakdown. And it took her coming to my therapy sessions and couples counseling for her to understand how badly she hurt me. I told her if it ever happens again, regardless of the circumstances, I was out. This brings us to the present. The wedding day comes around and it was perfect. Happiest day of our lives, and whatnot. Then the reception. We of course got pretty drunk. Not blackout or belligerent, but definitely drunk. At some point, my wife asked me to get her a pair of comfortable shoes. On my way back, I see my wife with Brooke's tongue down her throat to the middle of the dance floor with her other bridesmaids. I stomped my way into the reception, pushed Brooke out of the way, and said something along the lines of, "What the heck are you doing?" At this point, everyone stopped and looked at us, and I just threw the shoes and walked out. Sarah chased me out, bawling hysterically. Since this happened, I canceled our tickets and hotel reservation for our honeymoon, and I'm strongly considering divorce. My lovely wife has gone from begging to crying to name-calling. She ultimately decided I was a massive a-hole for embarrassing her at our wedding and throwing away our relationship over nothing. I think I'm just done this time. She's hurt me so many times and can't even see what she's doing wrong. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You made it clear that it wasn't behavior you wanted involved in, and she didn't listen. Yep, not the a-hole. And this thing ASAP. You didn't embarrass her. She embarrassed you by cheating at your reception in front of everyone. Now she's trying to bully you into staying with her, and even having to apologize to the cheater. Shaking my head. She does not love or respect you. Talk to a lawyer as soon as you can before you risk more and more financially. Even if OP didn't get upset and throw the shoes, it's mad embarrassing to be so sloppy drunk at your wedding that you make out with anyone but the groom/bride. Those were a lot of red flags, and you married her anyway. She knows how you felt about this and she did it anyway. She needs to get some help with the alcohol. That seemed to be when she messed up. What a mess. It honestly makes me wonder if he only knows about the 2 other times. I feel like there could be multiple times she's done this that he isn't aware of, due to not being around. For sure, her takeaway from those therapy sessions of OP pouring his heart out was that she should send him to another room first. Not the a-hole. Get an annulment. She has no respect for you and will continue this because you keep forgiving her. May not need an annulment if the paperwork wasn't filed yet. Yeah, he should have called the efficient right away. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend's fiancé that she cheated on him? Jess, our 4 homegirls, and I went to Vegas for Jess's bachelorette party. We had a great time the first day until we returned to our hotel that night. Another friend, Maria, didn't tell us that she had paid for male strippers to come to our suite, and that immediately made it uncomfortable for me and some others. We never agreed to this, nor we were interested. We wanted a girls' weekend. They started dancing, of course, and Jess eventually slept with one of the performers. Oral in front of us, then went into one of the bedrooms, leaving the door open. Me and 2 other girls left and booked a small room for us 3 that same night, while Maria, Jess, and another homegirl stayed. The 3 of us thought of leaving Vegas, but didn't want to come home because our partners might question why we came home so soon, since most of our boyfriends know each other. The next morning, we all got breakfast together, and guess who joins? The male stripper who banged one of my friends. And it was so damn uncomfortable. Afterwards, we all met again in the initial suite and had an argument with each other. I have never heard of girl code when it comes to cheating on our partners, and just used every goddamn cliche of what happens in Vegas, and that is normal for bachelorette parties. Pretty much all BS that I see in movies or read from social media. She eventually started crying and talking about her life, and I just simply didn't care. It has completely destroyed our friendship, and now me and the other girls have discussed the possibility of not continuing as her bridesmaids. One of them has told me that we should still go to the wedding and then cut ties after, but I don't know. My conscience can't hold us in, and I feel like it is the right thing to do because I would want that. I want to believe that what I'm doing is a moral good. Am I wrong? How common is this for bachelor and bachelorette parties? Other details if it helps. One bridesmaid didn't go with us, and she was on our side about what happened. She's willing to back us on what we decide to do. Since we've returned home, Maria has been harassing us about being fake friends in our group chat. I never really liked that woman anyways. My friends and I also took pictures of them at breakfast for evidence and screenshotted Maria's texts. Not the a-hole. You have to tell her fiancé. If someone did it to you, you'd want to know. Save him from a lifetime of this. And she already showed how much you mean to her calling you fake friends for having morals. Tell him, either together with friends or individually, how you need to tell him. Thank you. My homegirls who left with me also believe in telling him together, which I'm sure we will. Doing the right thing can be hard. If it wasn't, everyone would do it. But these choices come along only a few times in life and come to define you as a person. Not the a-hole. No, obviously it's not normal to sleep with a stranger before you're due to be married. She cheated on her fiancé, and he deserved to know. Don't let her manipulate you into keeping this a secret. My friends and I are around 23 to 25, and I'm kinda glad we got to see this early on. I really do think it's because Jess and I are childhood friends. Thank you for not making me feel like a crazy person. Tell the fiancé now. He'll hate you, but he'll hate you more for not telling. Ask me how I know. Yep, I broke contact with all friends who basically covered my ex's cheating. I would have been overjoyed if someone would have told me. That way, at least I wouldn't have to find out passing her phone when the dude she cheated with asked if we already broke up and if he could write her on her actual number now. Damn coward couldn't even face me once to this day. Not that I cared about him or her, past the point I realized what was going on. That it's normal for bachelorette parties. Tell her and Maria if it's so normal for bachelorette parties, then they can tell her fiancé. Since, you know, it's normal and he totally won't get mad about it. Not the a-hole. Exactly. If it's so normal, tell the future husband. Oh wait, it's not. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling off the wedding because I'm suspicious what my fiancé did at her bachelorette party? 27 male and 28 female here. I decided to call off the wedding after some suspicious events happened at my fiancé's bachelorette party. We were going to get married next week on Saturday and had our bachelorette parties this week. Me and the boys hung out together at a friend's place, chatted and played games. My fiancé and her bridesmaids decided to go to Meyhane. Wine House is a traditional Turkish entertainment place. I called and texted her that night, but there was no reply. My gut feeling screamed something was wrong, so I decided to ask about it from a friend of mine. I know her through the family, and she's not as close with my fiancé as other bridesmaids. She told me they went to a club, a very nasty one at that. There are no stripper clubs in Turkey to my knowledge, but that specific place they went is just nasty. I went there for a New Year's party in the past, and that was the craziest thing I've witnessed. It's no different than a brothel. I asked how come they went to that club instead of Meyhane. She told me others changed their mind on the way, but she did not go as she did not like clubs at all. I get a reply from my fiancé late in the morning and told me they stayed at another bridesmaid's place after getting drunk in Meyhane. I asked her if everyone is there, and she said yes. Now the problem is, that bridesmaid's place is almost 2.5 hours away from that place. There is no way 7 girls were able to go together to that place at midnight, especially when public transport was not available. Taxis out of question due to the cost and capacity. I asked one of my friends to call his girlfriend who is another bridesmaid. She told him she went back to her place and others just went to different places. There are inconsistencies all over. I facecammed my fiancé right away in WhatsApp, but she said she would call me once she is available. She called me some minutes later, but she was outside, and I'm pretty sure it was not the district that bridesmaid lived in. I confronted her about it once she came back, but she could not give any satisfying answers to my questions. It became, I must have said it wrong first, than other bridesmaids. Except my female texted me confirming things all at once. It was so obvious there was something fishy here, and they were coordinated by my fiancé. Alarms were ringing in my head, and yesterday I decided to call off the wedding. No one explained to me what happened that night clearly. When they do, there are inconsistencies all over. I announced it in friend groups and family groups. She's going crazy right now, but still, there's no single satisfying answer about what happened that night. I was even told not to be an insecure guy, but there was just no way. Everything points to at least something fishy happened there and they're trying to cover it. A friend whose girlfriend was bridesmaid has also decided to break up with her. It is chaos all over. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Turkish person here. A hani is usually for a man to pick up a woman. And yeah, self-explained. It's usually not a place where someone would go and celebrate a bachelorette party. A club? Maybe, yeah, but everyone has a different story in where they went. Why did she say they went there, but the other girlfriends say she went home? Things don't add up. Oh, by the way, Turkey has a lot of strip clubs, so I don't know what kind of club they went to, but they exist there too. Wow, I had no idea there were strip clubs. I went to most popular clubs in both Istanbul and other major cities, but did not see even one. As for the meyhane part, it was a really small place where people can eat Turkish appetizers, drink raki and enjoy the music. I was the one who recommended the place actually. I do not know if other meyhanes are as you said. To clarify, my home city is Izmir. I don't know how it works in Istanbul, but in Izmir, meyhanes are more a pickup place. Back in the 60s to 80s, it was more like enjoying the music and the belly dancers, but not anymore. Men go there usually to cheat on their wives and vice versa. Yeah, Turkey is more of a conservative country, but there are plenty of strip clubs, etc. I would advise you to ask more from her friends. She probably isn't a work of getting their stories straight, but it's worth a try. If she can't be honest, maybe you should consider that you dodged a bullet with her. Not the a-hole. If you really want to satisfy your suspicions, ask to see her phone. Then look at a GPS and recent spots visited. I asked to see her phone, but she rejected it. Let me guess, if you trusted me, you would not ask for my phone. Are you a psychic? It's what they always say when trying to deflect. She went home with some dude. They all told different stories, then lied at the same time. Not the a-hole. Someone on Reddit with a spine. Good for you. Demand a real explanation and non-restricted access to her phone, or she is free to lie to someone else in her next relationship. Don't let her trickle truth or gaslight you. Her story is a bunch of BS. Last story. Am I the a-hole for having a come-to-Jesus moment and calling off my wedding? 31 female. I have no idea how or why I overlooked so many things throughout my 8-year relationship. But yet, here we are. But I can't tell if I'm wrong for this. So last night, I told my future husband that I didn't know if I could go through with our wedding in 2025. He's in shock, as am I. My fiancé treats me great. He's kind. He matches my energy. He makes sure I'm taken care of in a material sense. He's handsome and smart and funny. He is and probably always be my best friend. But I'm just now starting to see how deep-rooted his mommy issues are, along with financial issues as well. Impulse control. He basically acts like a preteen wanting a shiny new toy whenever he gets a paycheck. I only just started to see how truly bad it was when we moved closer to his mom, a woman who had no hand in raising him. He was a ward of the state from age 8 to 17 when he went to live with his mother's family. He reconnected with his mother from that point. Since we have moved closer to her, he thinks the sun shines out of her behind and has defended her actions thoroughly. She had the means to take care of him, but she ultimately decided she didn't want to be a parent anymore when he turned 8 and left him with some random stranger, one of her acquaintances, to go see her own mother out of state and just never came back. That's how he ended up in foster care, but she has him convinced that she was escaping an abusive relationship, and it was the only way to keep him safe. I argued that she could have brought him with her, but you know. Anyways, since we now live right down the street from his mom, it's like he's reverted back to teenage years. He calls his mom before making any important decisions and follows her advice instead of mine, even if it's most certainly the wrong choice that affects both of us. He started sending all of his packages to her house as well, which gives her an excuse to show up here whenever she wants to unannounced. And he sees no issue with his open door policy. She doesn't even knock. She just opens the door like she owns the place and rummages our fridge or drinks all of our coffee. Since we moved here, he has been in Facebook Marketplace daily, looking for new things to buy himself. And like his mom enables it so bad. If I say that's an irresponsible purchase, she will double down and say, well, I think you deserve it, honey. You work hard. Treat yourself to something nice. He has borrowed money from her twice, like $20 for gas. And he always pays her back $50 to $100. And despite him treating me the same and still going out of his way to make me happy, I'm starting to become repulsed by him. Now, before anyone mentions it, I've brought this up to him. I've tried communicating several times that his behavior is affecting both of us. And while I understand he's happy to have his mother in his life again, her presence is making him act childish. And he's regressing because of her. He will say, "I understand what you mean," and do much better for a week or two just to slowly sink back into it. So I called off the wedding last night. I told him that I couldn't go through with marrying him because I couldn't handle his behavior anymore. I didn't sign up to marry a man with deep-rooted mommy issues who makes decisions with mommy's go-ahead that directly affect me. I told him I would be moving. He's now saying he will go no contact with his mother and that is sorry, but I told him the damage is already done, and I can't morally allow him to go no contact with his mom for my sake. I told him there are plenty of women who won't mind this, and that I'm sure he will find someone who doesn't mind his mother. But I personally hate the witch and don't want her near me or mine. He's been sulking understandably, since I called everything off and begging me to reconsider. But I don't think I can. I have never been more turned off in my life, and I'm not sure I can ever look at him the same, or chance that woman being in my life under any circumstances, because she's toxic, and he acts toxic when she's around. Not the a-hole. Be grateful that you figured this out before marriage. Before marriage and kids. Then you'd be court-ordered to talk to each other. I hope you move far, far away from them. Not the a-hole, and you're saving yourself a lifetime of frustration, anger, and resentment. Congratulations on figuring this out before you got married and had kids. Am I the a-hole for dropping out of maid of honor role last minute because of an emergency? My best friend Chloe was getting married last Saturday, and I was the maid of honor. For 1 year straight, I was the main planner for her and did the best that I could to fit the standards she had set for the wedding. I even planned an amazing bachelorette party for 1 month before the wedding. But I couldn't do this without the gorgeous bridesmaids as well. 2 days before the wedding, my husband had a heart attack and was hospitalized. Doctor said his situation was severe, and he was transferred in an ICU. Later, doctors told me he needs an emergency open heart surgery the next 24 hours. The situation was very life-threatening, and we could lose him any time. My best friend called me to wish me well, and I thanked her. She also asked if the surgery will happen before the wedding, and I said that it will happen the day before, but it will last for many hours. She said, "That's all right. Just making sure it doesn't intervene with the wedding, that's all. It's sad we can't have Ben there, my husband, but we'll have you and you can eat and drink for both of you. Haha." That's when I told her I won't be able to come to the wedding whether my husband's surgery is over or not, because I need to care for him and I want to be next to him until we are all 100% sure he's gonna be fine. She said she understands, but she reminded me that as a maid of honor I have a duty, and it's 1 day before the wedding, so I can't drop out. I said that I am sorry about this, but I almost lost my husband and I don't want to leave his side yet. She didn't curse me out or anything, but she was very upset and she started crying. She said she understands and wished me well again. My husband's surgery went well, and we were now waiting for his recovery. It was the day of the wedding, and I called my best friend to wish her well. She didn't pick up. Later, a video called one of the bridesmaids and she answered. I asked to talk to Chloe, but she said she's busy getting ready. I said fine, I'll call later. I called again and again, but no response. I thought she was simply busy with the preparations. I called the day after the wedding and still no response. She wouldn't reply to my text at all. I contacted some of the bridesmaids and they told me that she's very upset with me for dropping out the day before the wedding, and that I should make it work no matter what. Some of them said I did what's reasonable and how my husband's health should be my priority, but some others feel like I let down the bride on her big day, and I shouldn't expect a word from her anytime soon. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I want to clarify that this is the first time my friend has ever acted like this. We faced many difficulties during wedding planning, but she was always a sweetheart about it and made sure to never give a hard time to anyone. She was actually the most chilled bride I've ever met in my life. There was no way I thought she'd react like this over such an important emergency, because I didn't have previous signs that she'd act like that. Another disclaimer. On the day of the wedding, I stopped calling because I figured she would not reply because she's busy. But later I was told that she was only not replying to me, specifically because she was upset. She had taken few calls from relatives who couldn't attend because of distance. She specifically didn't respond to me. One of the bridesmaids also pointed out how it's weird that she never called me to ask how my husband's surgery went. But as a best friend, she could take a couple of minutes out of her day to simply see if everything's okay as well. Never thought about this until my friend, the bridesmaid, mentioned it. So now it hurts way more. Now for the comments. Not a-hole. And my heart breaks for you to even have to ask this. You did everything perfectly, dear. If it was her in the hospital, would she prefer her now husband to go to a party or stay and sit with her? Or if it was her husband having open heart surgery, would she have the guts to go out and party knowing what he was going through? I'm so glad your husband's surgery went well, and I hope for a speedy recovery. I felt so guilty for a moment. Part of me still feels guilty for at least not making sure to attend the ceremony and skip the reception. But I don't know if that would be right considering my husband was just out of his surgery like that. You have absolutely no reason to feel guilty. You even FaceTimed the bride on her big day. You seem like a great friend and a great wife, and I understand a bride being mad that her maid of honor couldn't be there. But I would never expect someone to leave their significant other in pain for my wedding day. The bride can be mad or sad about the situation, but she has no right to be mad at Opie. Opie, you did exactly what you should have. It was an emergency, and your husband's health comes first. Chloe was out of line to ask you to attend anyway, knowing how sick he was. And she is out of line now to be freezing you out. And she should have checked in to see how his surgery went. Not stay home. She's delusional if she thinks her wedding should take priority over your husband's life. I wouldn't try so hard to repair this friendship, especially since she's creating more stress for you when you are already dealing with a lot. This support goes both ways. Where is she when you need her? Sulking. It didn't even cross my mind at first. She hasn't even checked up on me to see if my husband is doing well after a life-threatening situation. Everyone around me has called. Even my ex-boyfriend has texted me to wish well for my husband. Distant relatives and coworkers have contacted me, except my best friend. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my niece borrow my engagement ring? I, 28 female, recently got engaged to the man of my dreams, and he picked the perfect engagement ring. I can't get over how well he did without asking me any questions about it. It even fits perfectly despite neither of us actually knowing my ring size. I was watching my little niece, 6 female, this weekend when she saw my ring. She thought it was really pretty and wanted to try it on. I explained to her that this ring was very special to me and that I didn't want anyone else wearing it. However, I have other jewelry that we could go through together and she could wear if she wanted. She didn't. She just wanted to wear this ring, so she started pouting. I tried to get her to focus on other things and activities, but she was still in a mood about it by the time my sister, 26 female, came to pick her up a couple of hours later. My sister was annoyed and asked why I couldn't just let her wear it for a little bit. I tried to explain, but she said I just don't understand kids. Later in the week, my sister stopped by with my niece to let my dogs out while I was at work. In my line of work, wearing a ring isn't very practical, so I leave it in the ring box by my bed and put it back on when I get home. When I get home, I couldn't find it. I panicked. I looked everywhere I could think of. I called my sister to see if she had seen it while she was there, and she admitted she took it and let my niece wear it for the day. I was fuming. They had gone to the zoo. It could have been lost anywhere. My sister even admitted that they had forgotten it on a table for a few minutes. But I shouldn't be mad because they got it back. I yelled at my sister that she shouldn't have taken the ring when I specifically told her I didn't want my niece or anyone else wearing it, because I was worried about this exact kind of thing happening. I told her that I would find someone else to let my dogs out when I was working, and that she wasn't allowed in my house when I'm not home anymore. She said I'm being unfair to my niece who loves my dogs, and just wanted to feel like a princess for a little while. I'm not mad at my niece, and I don't want to punish her for what my sister did. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister stole the ring. Stole it. I tell her to pound sand and not talk to her for a while, but you do you in that regard. You never had to let your niece borrow it anyway. Nobody's obligated to share, especially not a piece of jewelry, and the entitlement and attitude from your sister is appalling. Your niece would get over the small normal childhood disappointment because, surprise surprise, most people won't want to share their jewelry with her. And change your locks. Like, how on earth does the sister think what she did was acceptable or right? She reeks of entitlement. Not stay home. Your sister stole your engagement ring. Please make sure she has no access to your house going forward. Yeah, don't just revoke her key status, Opie. Full on change your locks because she may have made copies in case she lost hers or whatever. I've heard too many horror stories of this exact scenario happening. They take X person's key for Y reason, and it turns out X made a copy and broke in for whatever reason. Not stay home. How would little princess have replaced it if it had gotten lost or damaged? Or dirty? I love little kids, but a 6-year-old has no concept of the value of an engagement ring. Sister is beyond out of line. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of my nephew's trust assets? Before his death, My father chose me as trustee for a trust that is set up for Jacob, my severely disabled nephew, but my sister was jealous about not having been chosen as trustee and asked me to quit. She once admitted that she had plans for how to spend the trust money, such as to spend it not only on Jacob, but also on other relatives she is fond of who are not named in the trust. I thought that would be wrong and would cause trouble. Although my sister knows I'm an honest person, she told my nephew and his family that I was stealing much of the money to trust and suggested that I should be sued and removed as trustee. Until she made those false statements, Jacob and I got along very well together, especially since I kept sending money from the trust for whatever he needed. But after that, he no longer trusted me, even though I offered to sit down with him and go through all the accounts and explain everything in detail so he might understand. Unfortunately, he is confused and easily manipulated. At the encouragement of some of his relatives who are very, very interested in the trust money, he hired a lawyer who sent me letters accusing me of criminal actions and threatening to take me to court to remove me as trustee. I cared deeply about Jacob, so I warned him that his legal action against me would force me to hire my own lawyer, that the trust would have to pay for and that it would be expensive. But he didn't listen and said he didn't care. He told me he had been assured by people he trusted that I would have to pay for all of his and my legal fees out of my own pocket. In order to prove that I had stolen nothing and remained trustee, I had to pay several $1,000s from the trust for legal expenses. Jacob was shocked that the amount was far more than he had expected, and I don't think he understands what was proven when his lawyer gave up and quit after reviewing my clean accounts. Now, almost everyone, including Jacob, says I'm a terrible trustee and that I abused Jacob and did not act in his best interest by wasting trust money. I hated having to spend trust money on legal fees, but I was trying to protect the trust from people who might have misused it if they had taken over as trustee. I was afraid that if I didn't remain trustee, the entire amount of money in the trust would disappear at the hands of my eager successor, and Jacob would get nothing more. Now he continues to get large, regular monthly payments. Am I the a-hole for spending thousands of dollars of trust money? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I hate to say it because your nephew is disabled, but this was an expensive lesson for him in who to trust and who not to trust. If he hasn't learned it by this point, there's not much you can do about it. I appreciate your sensitive reply. I do feel sad and frustrated that he isn't able to understand who his friends are, but I'm hoping he will in time come to realize the truth. In the meantime, I keep doing my job. That's about all you can do. Hopefully you'll see the light one day. Not the a-hole. Who has power of attorney for him? The lawyer he hired likely took advantage, and you should file a bar complaint. Maybe have an outside accountant audit the trust annually. Allow the family to see the books, but don't allow them access. I do have an outside accountant, and I do allow the family to see the books. Unfortunately, some people got excited by seeing the amount that is in the trust. Although they don't have access, apparently they wanted access. Not the a-hole. But is there a way to make those greedy family members reimburse the trust for a frivolous lawsuit designed to get a hold of a vulnerable person's money? I was tempted to try, because I don't view this situation as Jacob's fault, but I don't want to get into interminable lawsuits with relatives that might cost more than what was lost. Besides, these are family members who probably didn't anticipate that they would be hurting Jacob the most. By carefully investing of what was left in the trust, I have replaced all the money that was lost, and then some. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepdaughter she's ridiculous? My husband and I have been together for 5 years and married last month. My husband had a kid with his ex-girlfriend when they were 16. His daughter's now 19. Hubby is now 35 and I'm 28. His ex-girlfriend and him had a good relationship and a healthy co-parenting of their daughter, but things never worked out between them. They stayed together for the sake of the kid for 4 years, but then decided it's better to break up and figure out co-parenting. When I met my husband, his daughter was 14, and as a young person myself, I tried to fit in with her and build a good relationship, but she refused. I respected her boundaries and understood it's not easy for every kid to see their parents with someone else. But growing up, my stepdaughter started being obsessed with my husband beyond a normal. She would always ask to sit on his lap, she'd always call him hot, and she also insulted me multiple times as if she was a jealous ex. I found her whole behavior concerning, and I suggested my husband gets the kid to a therapist because she might have some unresolved trauma from the past. She went to therapy and bettered herself for some time. She stopped visiting her therapist once she turned 18 and moved out. Since then, she's been demanding my husband takes her on dates, buys her clothes, buys her jewelries. She posts pictures with my husband on social media with captions, "My one true love, my man." She started being insulting towards me once again and called me a chick every time she met me. And unprovoked told me she'll always be number one woman in my husband's life. I know my husband loves his daughter, and I know his daughter comes first, but her attitude troubles me a lot. On me and my husband's wedding, his daughter wore a white dress which was similar to a wedding dress and also had a small train. Her mom, hubby's ex who was also invited, scolded her. After this ongoing behavior, my husband tries to establish some boundaries with his daughter. But she's throwing tantrums that accuses my husband of choosing a cheap woman over his actual daughter. I told her that I've had enough, and she needs to stop being a ridiculous entitled brat and accept that her dad is an adult man who deserves his own personal life. That was apparently harsh. My husband sided with me, but some of my friends who I told them this told me I should never insult my husband's daughter no matter what. Am I the a-hole? 9 out of 10 times I side with stepchildren on issues. You're not the a-hole for this one. That girl needs some serious help, but I feel bad for her. I hope she goes back to therapy and can accept she needs to work on whatever is troubling her so deeply. Going forward, don't be afraid or reluctant to protect yourself, especially mentally. Hope you'd like to add that what your friend said is probably good advice. Not for the reason that you might be an a-hole, but for the reason of not escalating any situation with her. Good luck. I normally roll my eyes at suggestions of therapy. Not this time. Something is clearly up here. Not the good kind of something. Not the a-hole. She's displaying worrying behavior and needs to go back to the therapist. She's displaying an unhealthy view towards her dad. It is possibly showing signs that she's confusing familial love with romantic love. If she doesn't get this resolved, she could become very delusional. It risks harming her relationship not only with her father and yourself, but with her entire family. It's also very possible that she has underlying mental health issues which haven't been diagnosed yet. Either way though, you're not the a-hole in this. How is your husband even remotely okay with any of this? He needs to put an end to this ASAP. His daughter's behavior is obsessive AF. Not the a-hole. He's not okay with this. He's very uncomfortable that his grown daughter is acting like that. He insists she should go to therapy because she's treating my husband as a romantic partner, which is not normal. And my husband believes it may be trauma response from her childhood and the fact that she was closer to her dad and estranged from her mother for years. But she is an adult and she can't be forced into therapy by my husband. Am I the a-hole for dumping my boyfriend immediately after he said he owns my company? Brian, male 40 and I, female 38, initiated a relationship after months of flirting. I was super into him. I liked him a lot, and I felt like I was getting a real partner. Things started to change after we became intimate. I felt taken for granted, and like it moved me down to his list of priorities. This took me a hot minute to process because I had feelings for him. He also has a daughter that I care about, female 18, and I didn't want to lose that relationship. I'm a business owner in the innovation space and have been very active with a group in my area. I'm suspecting that Brian got close to me for what he could get out of it, rather than wanting a real connection. He has a very dark relationship with his ex-wife. It claims that she has made his life miserable because she still wants him. However, the news that she had a steady relationship hit him hard last week, and he went crazy. He said insulting things about her new guy. They've been divorced for at least 5 years. I asked if he knew him, and he didn't even know his name. I'd been telling him that I don't enjoy his jokes. He's gone from nice and loving to say degrading things. And honestly, I've asked him if he's listening to Red Pill podcast or what. I'm confused about these new trends, and I don't know how to assimilate. All I know is that we have an income gap, and that he doesn't have the tools to improve things for himself. I used to be very open to dating men who aren't necessarily successful. But now, I'm getting really nervous, since I suspect many men are trying to use women. My company just signed an agreement with a very high-profile corporation, and it was announced. Ever since that happened, he's been calling it our company. I've told him he can't say that, as it's very misleading, and he laughs and says he's only kidding. 2 weeks ago, we had a very long conversation about his changes in personality, the way he treats the relationship and how I feel about it. He begged for a second chance and seemed to be really trying. Fast forward to last night. We were out with his friends when he drove us around the industrial complex where I'm establishing my new office, still painting and getting it ready. I thought he just wanted to see the aircrafts, and there is a small local airport close by, but he pointed at the side of the complex where my space is located, and his friends enthusiastically asked questions. I try to hold back, but it made me very angry. I don't need to have my career showcased for anyone's benefit. We stopped for ribs and drinks, and he referred to the company as ours. I immediately asked, what company? And this time he was hesitant, but still answered. I lost it and told him off, and immediately set the record straight. His friends looked embarrassed and confused while he tried to calm me down. I dumped him right there and rejected their offer to take me home. This morning, I woke up feeling embarrassed. I feel like I made a scene. I have no intention of going back to him or making up, but I don't know if I overdid it by chastising him. About me, I built this company from scratch, with lots of trials and errors, because I needed more formal education in my field, which I did get with lots of sacrifice. About him, he has a regular job, but he's very unhappy. He has tried to create companies on a string of failures. I really hate him, and I'm fed up, but his friend's girlfriend reached out to apologize if she and her boyfriend did something wrong, and said Brian was humiliated and took it really hard. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. When you dumped him, did his relationship with your company change? Did he lose an office, title, ownership stake, or paycheck? If not, you didn't overreact. You very clearly asked him to stop pretending he was part of your company. I bet you paid for the ribs too. He hit the jackpot, a confident and successful partner who buys him ribs. And he blew it big time. His representative had a good thing going on, a woman with means, and he blew it by showing his true self. Had he waited it out maybe a year more, he would have OP hooked. Good thing he's a dumbass. Not the a-hole. Haha, for real. I think this is the real red flag. He thought she was so enamored that she wouldn't notice the shift. That's just plain insulting. Not the a-hole. This guy had more chances than he deserved. There were so many red flags. Lying about his ex, making you feel less, and of course taking credit for your hard work. Good riddance to flaming garbage. Not the a-hole. Absolutely, you deserve better. Multiple red flags, from dishonesty about his ex to undermining you and taking credit for your hard work. It's a relief to part ways with someone who displays such behavior. Onward and upward. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going scorched earth over my inheritance rings? My female 27 mom passed away a year ago. It was known that it was a possibility, so my mom divided up her jewelry my dad had gotten her over the years to give it to us if she passes. I'd picked out 2 rings I had helped my dad pick out. They were not cheap, about $10,000 a piece when I got them appraised. When I left my husband 30 male, I left pretty quickly and with basically nothing just to get out. I kept some of my stuff, but it was in our divorce agreement that certain things were to be given to me and held in a safe deposit box until I could get them. I took basically nothing monetarily from the marriage when I left and gave him basically everything. The divorce is now final and I finally came back to my home state to pick up the rings. I found out that he did not put the rings in a safety deposit box, just some of my other jewelry. I confronted him about it and I found out that not only did he not place them for safekeeping, he stored them in his new girlfriend's female 21 apartment, who says she had them in her jewelry box for safekeeping but you can't find them. She knew what they were according to the texts I have, and that they were not his or a gift. I talked to my divorce lawyer and is filing a lawsuit since 1. Inheritance is not marital property, and 2. My ex did not follow his end of the divorce decree. I'm asking for $25,000, the cost of the rings, plus emotional damages for the loss of the only thing I have left from my mom. I also filed a report to the police for the theft of the rings by his girlfriend. That probably won't go anywhere though, but they are investigating if she or he sold them. I think it's a high possibility given the value. I'm devastated losing these. They were so special to me. He and his girlfriend are angry at me because it's too much money that they don't have. She could get charged with theft or laundering the money from selling them for my ex. Not sure, this is mostly from my lawyer. And say it's just a couple rings. His friends, my old friends who I don't speak with, have been blowing up my phone calling me a witch, and that I hurt him so much already and to just leave it alone that I'm getting what I deserved. I wish I could get the rings back. But I'm so upset at this and over his whole attitude about it that I want to basically go scorched earth on them. At this point, it's not only about the sentimental value, but to give a big middle finger after everything. Am I the a-hole for suing my ex for my rings and potentially getting his girlfriend in legal trouble? Not the a-hole. He messed around and found out. The rings were your property, and he either lost or sold them. Hold them accountable. I fully believe he sold them. OP, try searching online. Typical jewelry resale sites or even quick cash sites. Check local pawn shops and ask around if you want/can bring photos. I'm willing to bet $25K something comes up. Not the a-hole. He needs to give you a complete and honest account of what happened to your rings. If I'd rather see his new girlfriend in jail than face the truth, well, it sucks to be her and be thrown under the bus. That's my biggest thing. I want to know where they went. If he could just tell me, locate them, and give them back, I might not have to do this. It's not even about the money. It's about taking away something so important to me. Most likely they're in some pawn shop. I'm not in town much longer, but my siblings said they would search every pawn shop to see if one of them have it. Tell them you'll drop the charges if you can get them back. Tell them to call the pawn shop that they took them to and for them to go get them for the new owner. Who cares what his friends say? The rings were your property and either lost or sold them. Hold them accountable. I agree. I just hate how my phone is blowing up. It's hard to continuously be called a witch / everything else they say about me. I've been thinking about changing my number over all this. No, don't change your number. Send all those calls to voicemail. Get screenshots of the texts and back them up to a cloud server or flash drive. You may need it as evidence for harassment, not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband to not be surprised and wonder what happened when he loses me and our kids? My 32 female husband, 30 male, have been together for 10 years. We have 2 children, 8 female ours and 11 male mine from a previous relationship. He's never been super active in our kids' lives, but he has always shown up when it counts. But this last week, he has started being more distant. He has been playing video games on his computer more often, like the time he gets home from work until 1 a.m. most days. We had a weekend of parades and events in town that the kids and I wanted to go. This as the last parade, on Sunday, was the one he thought we were planning to go to. So we skipped all the others and planned to all go to that one. Sunday rolls around. About 2 hours before we have to leave, he turns on his computer saying he needs to do something real quick. 45 minutes before the parade starts, we are getting ready to leave. This is when he decides he is going to just stay home. The kids and I went and had a great time together and got lots of beads, toys, candy, and other things thrown out to the crowd. The kids didn't seem to show they had any care that it was just the 3 of us. That following week, he wanted to start a server to be able to have for him and others to play on. It cost $80 to get started. I got paid in 3 days and told him he could wait until then to pay for it, but that wasn't taking money out of our savings to do so. He turns around and calls his mom to borrow the money. When I found out about it 2 days later and asked where he got the money, he told me. My mother-in-law and I have a somewhat strained relationship and money has always been an issue. My husband knows how I feel about this. I told him it would have been nice if he would have talked to me about it before cashing her and borrowing it from her. He tries to tell me he thought he did, then smirks because he knows for a fact he never did. He was trying to make me second-guess myself. This was also on Valentine's Day. Neither the kids nor I received anything from him for it. But his server got paid. I didn't make a big deal about it and just wanted to move on. That following weekend, our daughter had an art fair, showcasing her artwork. She was super excited about going and seeing what she did. He was up until 3 to 4 a.m. that night before on his game, once again. The next morning, he refused to wake up the 4 times I tried. He finally woke up and started moving around as we were about to have to leave. He decided at that point that he was just going to stay home. My daughter didn't seem to mind, but my heart just broke. So the kids and I left without him. We go to her art fair and saw that she painted a beautiful picture. I was very proud of her and she was so excited to see it up on a wall as well. We went to the activity room. I colored a picture and her and my son colored and made other crafts. My daughter then said to me, "I'm kind of glad Dad didn't come. You're more fun when he's not around and he's always so grumpy and rushes us." As if my heart wasn't hurt enough, it took all I had to not cry. Afterwards, we went and got donuts from our favorite place downtown to celebrate her accomplishment, something my husband wouldn't have been happy to do or done. We get home after about 3 hours, and there he is, on his computer. He can tell I'm upset and ask what's wrong. I told him it was sad that he couldn't take 3 hours out of his day to make his daughter feel special and show up for her, and that when he wakes up one day alone and the kids go no contact with him, to not be so surprised, and that he only has himself to blame. He laughed and said whatever and went back to playing. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. It seems that you and the kids are better without him. What is he bringing to the table? He'd probably bring more if he were court-ordered too. The day he wakes up alone should be tomorrow. If it doesn't shake some sense into him, make it permanent. You're the a-hole for showing your daughter that it's acceptable to tolerate this kind of treatment from a partner. Women have options now. We don't have to tolerate crappy men who takes us for granted. That's the lesson you should be teaching your daughter. Your son should also be learning this lesson. Please make sure he learns to respect women and treat them accordingly. 100% this. Her daughter already knows it at 8. My opinion, she was trying to tell OP it's okay to leave her dad. She would be happier, and so would OP. My biggest fear is them blaming me for everything one day. But maybe that was her way of telling me it's okay. 100% she was telling you. My son was about 6 to 7 when he would make hints about his dad. You owe it to your daughter to show her what to accept and what not to. And at the moment, you are setting her up for a future with crappy boyfriends. And when you're having to comfort her when she's older, it will be on you for not leaving and showing her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for putting my boyfriend in child support? He is mad. No, we don't live together. We have a 6-month-old and we both are in contracts with our apartments. And we don't plan to legally live together until May of this year. I'll move into his apartment after my lease ends. My boyfriend is a great dad. He is very involved. Since he works night shifts, he literally spends all day with our daughter. But the problem is that he has not been financially supporting us. I have bought all the baby supplies. The last time he paid for something was a pack of diapers when she was 3 months old, and I had to keep reminding him to get diapers at his door. He won't use his paycheck on baby supplies because he's trying to save up his money for a new laptop. I'm getting sick of paying for all the baby supplies by myself. One day I had to ask my mom to buy us baby wipes, rash cream, and baby bath. It's ridiculous. He makes far more money than I do, but he's being frugal because his laptop broke and he needs another one. So I decided to put him on child support. I understand I can do that since he's just my boyfriend and not my husband. My boyfriend got really mad and told me that's the worst thing you can do to a man. He went on a rant calling me a gold digger and called me a snake. And somehow I betrayed him by filing for child support, like I warned him. He said, "Why would you file for child support when I'm still your partner and we're raising our daughter together? Me more than you anyways. Because you ain't footing in the bill like I am. He needs to help financially too and pay for some baby supplies. Now he's gonna be forced to by law, and he should expect a letter in the mail soon." That's the worst thing you can do to a man? He certainly needs to get out more. Not the a-hole. Literally, if the worst thing OP can do to him is make him financially support his own child, which he won't do because he wants a laptop, then OP should dump him, not move in with him. This is my vote. Also, if he's not supporting his child at all at this point, then I question whether he was really planning on them moving in together later. I'm not sure where they are or what kind of laptop he's looking to buy, but saying he can't buy diapers for several months to save for it doesn't sound reasonable to me. Especially if he makes 5 times what OP makes and she's paying for everything. Not the a-hole. I cannot imagine having a baby and not spending a single cent on them in 3 months. Clearly he has bought things for himself. Snacks, fast food, coffees, whatever. No matter how frugal he is being. Which means he can be unfrugal for himself and not your baby. He sees you paying for everything and figures, guess I don't have to help. Which makes him suck. She should get the child support and drop the boyfriend. It's doubtful he'll stay with her after this. He won't buy more than a single pack of diapers for his own kid. No way he lets the kid move in with him. And he sees her getting what their child is owed as a betrayal. He's not letting her move in now either. Better for OP and a baby though. My ex rarely paid for anything for our daughter. When I left him, he said it would be unfair to ask him to pay child support because he had bills. But the thing is, I knew how much he made and how much his bills were. He had plenty of disposable income. He just wanted to keep spending money on prostitution and only girls instead of supporting the child he chose to have. He was given the choice to not be a dad and would have never even been put on a birth certificate if he had said he didn't want to be a dad. Get out of here with that unfair BS. Am I the a-hole for kicking my ex out of my son's birthday and throwing out the gift she got for him? My ex and I, 33 male, broke up almost 2 years ago. We had been trying to have kids, but couldn't because of my infertility. It was just very disheartening for me. My ex wanted to keep trying, but it was just too painful. I told her that I wanted to stop for now. Not stop forever, but to give me some time to grieve the fact that I'd never be able to father kids of my own before we looked into other avenues. She didn't want to wait any longer and broke up with me. A couple months later, I had a drunken one-night stand with my son's mother. To my surprise, she got pregnant. And yes, we made sure he was in fact my biological child because I never thought this could ever happen. He was a beautiful miracle. But my son's mother unfortunately passed when he was 4 months old because of issues with COVID. Ever since I've been a single father, my ex has tried to make contact. I don't want to have any contact because my life is different, and there's no place for her anymore. Her biggest advocate has been my sister, Because we were together for years and broke up due to the kids' conflict. And apparently now that I have a child, we could make it work. We celebrated my son's first birthday 2 weeks ago. My family and his mom's family were there. My ex found out, and I'm sure through my sister or someone else in my family. She brought a gift for my son, but I didn't even let her come in. We had an argument at the door because she would not leave. My ex was trying to convince me to let her stay so she could meet my son and we can talk about things. I already knew why she wanted to, because she feels like she could take his mom's place on his life, and that's not gonna happen. She eventually did leave, but I was pretty mad at that point. My ex wanted to leave the gift for him. Well, she left it at my door, so I just threw it away. He got plenty of other gifts anyways. Because this happened in front of everyone, my ex and sister think I was the a-hole for humiliating her in front of not just my family, but also my son's mom's family. It would have been less chaotic to have taken her to the side and had a private conversation, so she could have slipped out without anyone noticing. On top of that, she found out I got rid of her gift, which they think I was an a-hole for because that was meant for him, and it didn't give me the right to throw out something that belonged to my son. I'm still bitter towards my ex for how things ended, and seeing her made me react that way. Because it was out of anger and hate for her. I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole for how the whole thing was handled, or was I the right? Now for the top comments. She crashed at a party uninvited. Who gave her the dates and location? Your sister? And then got upset that she was thrown out. Screw that noise. Not the a-hole. You crash a party, you get what's coming to you. She keeps saying it wasn't her. I'm not sure I believe that. My ex and sister think I was the a-hole for humiliating her in front of not just my family, but also my son's mom's family. I would not believe her either, OP. But the fact that you humiliated her in front of your son's mom's family? Would they not feel uncomfortable with a literal stranger coming in and trying to take on a mother role for your son on his first birthday with no notice? I mean, do they honestly think your ex would have been welcomed by them? Not the a-hole. Your ex is obviously obsessed with you even 2 years later. The birthday party behavior is over the line. You also need to have a serious discussion with your sister and make clear that if she keeps interfering in your life by supporting your ex's not job behavior, you will cut her out of you and your son's lives. Finally, also make it clear to your ex that the stalkerish behavior verging on restraining order territory. If she doesn't stop, get one. She was only this way after finding out I had a baby and his mom was no longer in the picture. Now she feels like we could have what we were trying for before our breakup, which isn't going to happen. I limited how much I talked to my sister when she didn't leave it alone. And the only reason she was invited is because my family told me she's still his aunt, and our conflict shouldn't have to affect the relationship. Well, it's affecting it now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's brother he should reconsider his decision to adopt? My brother-in-law was adopted. He came from what we call a broken home, and it's affected his personality. He always wanted and planned to have kids with his ex-wife, but she turned out abusive, and he was barely able to escape from her with mine and my husband's help. He was devastated and kept saying his future and family ended before it was started, but we assured him he was lucky he didn't have kids with his ex and got out easily. He's now 35, single and lives alone, and has been talking about adoption a lot lately. Yesterday, he visited and brought it up again. I didn't feel he was ready despite saying that he was. I told him he is a product of an affair that ruined 2 families, and that he had a rough and stable childhood that created some serious damages, manifesting in a number of mental health issues that he hasn't worked on. And so I don't think adoption is a good idea, especially given his feelings around that, and he should really reconsider his decision. He looked at me shocked, but I told him not to take this personally because I was just pointing out that it's not fair to subject an innocent child to his mental health issues. In other words, I just don't think he's ready to be anybody's dad. He became quiet all of a sudden, then took his phone and key and said that I was rude and hurtful, then left and shut the door behind him. My husband asked what happened and why his brother left. I told him about the conversation I had with him, and he went off on me saying I messed up, and that this was none of my concern and I just made his brother feel worthless and incapable. I said no, I was just making sure he is ready. But he said I don't get to decide if he's ready or not, and told me I had to call his brother and apologize to him for the rude crap I said. But I declined because I don't think I was wrong for telling the truth as it is. We had an argument, and he isn't speaking to me now. I understand how brother-in-law might have felt, but I was just giving my opinion on this matter and a bit of advice. I told him he is a product of an affair that ruined 2 families. You're the a-hole for that comment and other reasons. He, the baby at a time, did not ruin those 2 families. They'd also stepped out on their marriages and had affairs did. Let's not blame babies for something that they have literally no control over. Agree, Opie's the a-hole. But I don't think Opie's blaming him for ruining the families. Opie said affair that ruined 2 families. Opie said the affair ruined the families, and therefore the brother-in-law has some mental health issues and traumatic childhood being the product of the affair that he should process/get in check before adopting. Fair. I see what you're saying. I just think that is an incredibly cruel thing to say to someone who is going through a mental health crisis. Opie could have gone about it in a way that expressed their concerns, but also built up brother-in-law, not tear him down. So this is what you sound like. I think you're going to be a lousy father because you come from 2 broken homes, but don't take it personally. Oh, and I wasn't even asked my opinion, but I thought I'd give it anyway. You're the a-hole. Totally agree. Opie opened her big trap and gave her opinion when it wasn't even asked for. Opie seems to think if you come from a broken home, you're a lousy parent. But I assume Opie came from a stable home. Think your parents would be ashamed they raised such a judgmental and rude a-hole. You're the a-hole. I was just giving my opinion on this matter and a bit of advice. If my husband had given this opinion to someone I cared about, I'd divorce him. In a sub full of people being a-holes, that may well be the rudest thing I've ever heard someone say. You can talk about his childhood all you want, but it's clear someone raised you wrong too. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband I went into labor? I, 32 female, have 3 kids. Kate, 12 female, Luke, 4 male, and I just gave birth to my beautiful baby girl, Valerie. My husband and I have been married for 5 years and I love him, but he's a little bit of a mama's boy. My mother-in-law hates me. I grew up in a richer neighborhood and my parents left me with quite a lot of inheritance money when they passed, about 13 million in assets. Mother-in-law, however, was a single mother with 2 sons and had a lot of trouble just paying for basic needs. She worked her way up and I think she's very strong. But she doesn't like me and thinks I'm pretentious because apparently I had everything handed to me. Well, when I got pregnant with Luke, we decided to name him after my husband's father who died when my husband was only 3. Mother-in-law was through the roof when we told her. But ever since I fell pregnant again with Valerie, she has been adamant that we would name her Francine after her late grandmother. My husband wants to as well, but I don't. Instead, I wanted to name her Valerie. And not just because I like the name, but also because when I was 17, the song Valerie by Amy Winehouse came out and me and my family would sing it all the time. At family gatherings, it was always first on a speaker. Car rides, and just in general, it was basically our song. Well, my older sister and my parents passed away in a house fire 3 years ago, and I miss them terribly. We were all a very close family, so it hit me and my younger sister, 27, very hard. When I suggested this to my husband and mother-in-law, they actually got mad at me because they wanted it to be Francine. I suggested we name it Valerie with a middle name Francine or Francine with a middle name Valerie, but they weren't happy with either. During my last month of pregnancy, my husband has become more angry at me. I finally snapped and said that I wasn't going to name my child an ugly name that I don't like for the sake of a woman that doesn't even like me. He said that I was being unbelievable and that I had insulted a strong, independent mother. I immediately apologized, but he left to his mother's house. 2 days later, I couldn't reach him at all, and on the 3rd day, I went into labor. Kate kept saying she would text my husband, and I told her not to bother. After hours of labor and awful pain, I gave birth to my baby girl and named her Valerie with Diane as the middle name. Diane was my mother's name. Then about 2 hours after I gave birth, my younger sister was able to reach mother-in-law to get the message to my husband. When they came in, my husband was raging and yelling at me, calling me a pretentious backstabbing witch. And my mother-in-law was more upset about the name. I think this might be the end of my marriage, but we can still change her name if we really wanted to. So am I the a-hole? Should I change the name? Now for the comments. One thing I've learned about mama's boys is that they will never, ever, ever choose you over their mom. Get out of this situation. It's better to be on your own than with someone like him. Not stay home. My ex's mom was freaking psychotic. The first time she met my mom, she barely spoke to her. I'm thinking, oh, they're both nurses. Their kids are dating. This'll be great. Nope. She sat there freaking moping the entire time and sipping her 5th drink. Should make him leave my place at 3 in the morning and drive 40 minutes to her house because she wanted a bag of chips and didn't want to get out of bed. And you know what? He did it. I should have left then. Not stay home. You chose Valerie in honor of your tragically killed parents and sister. How in holy hell does he think that less important than commemorating his great-grandmother whom he probably never knew? You're financially independent, so this should indeed be the end of your marriage. You don't want your children growing up thinking it's okay to be treated the way you're being treated. All I'm going to say is that your son was named for his relative who passed, so it's only fair your daughter was named for yours. The damage is already done. Keep the name. Sounds like he was trying to guilt and manipulate you anyway. He left and ignored you while you were nearing your due date, and then screams abuse at you. Honey, contact a lawyer and leave. You don't want this man to be involved any more than necessary in your life, trying to strong-arm you into getting his way after you offered compromises. Stay firm on the name. If you cave, you are setting precedent that he will always get his way if he is a bully. Not stay home. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my sister's boyfriend to meet my son? My 26 female sister, 28 female, began dating a guy in November of 2021. I'm not sure exactly how they met, but he gave her a name at first that wasn't real. He eventually told her his real first name, Miles, and a couple weeks later gave her his real last name. I thought this was sketchy, but it's not my business and I figure I can just keep my distance. 2 weeks after they met, Thanksgiving rolls around and I'm hosting it at my house. She tells me she's bringing Miles to Thanksgiving. Doesn't ask, just tells me. I was like, I don't know. I really don't want the first time I meet this guy to be at my house. I bring up the name change thing, but she's upset with me anyways. My mom and dad take her side and I end up giving in and letting him come. He doesn't do anything too weird at Thanksgiving, but he has a lot of outlandish stories to share. I am nice enough to him anyways. I decide that since my family all seem to like him, that maybe I'm just not giving him a fair shot. I decide to go to lunch with both of them a month or so later. Within 5 minutes, he says to me, "You know your grandpa has dementia, right?" I was shocked. My sister sat there nodding her head, and their evidence was my sister told him something and he forgot and asked a question about it the next day. Mind you, this man is 80 years old, but is in otherwise great shape. He then proceeds to ask me about our family business finances, how much we make each year, just inappropriate questions that are not his business. Last month, I tell my cousins, who also work at family business, the type of increase he was making, and they ban him from the office. He was coming in for hours in the middle of the day. I take my cousin's side, obviously. My dad tells me I need to mind my own freaking business, and my sister is furious with me and avoids me for a while. When we talk again, I basically tell her that I cannot trust her boyfriend and don't want to be around him. And I cite the comment about our grandpa in my explanation. She says to me, "Wow, you're really hung up on the dementia thing, aren't you?" Oh, did I mention I've been pregnant this whole time? Last week, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. I'm starting to allow close family to come by the house and see him. She texts me and says, "Me and Miles are coming to see baby." I tell her you can come, but he is most definitely not allowed in my house or anywhere near my son. She tells me, "Fine, I'm not coming to see him either." And I respond, "Okay, that's your choice." Now my parents are mad at me for shutting her out and not allowing her to see my son, even though I specifically stated she was welcome on her own. I thought I was in the right, but my parents are just making me feel crazy. Am I the a-hole for drawing this boundary? This endless conflict is starting to wear me down and I'm wondering if I should just give in to keep the peace. What do y'all think? Not Daeho. What justification has he given for providing fake names? Seems sketchy and way too interested in family wealth. Keep him away from your baby, out of your house, and try to keep records of any sketchy things you hear/see with him. He said his mom is in the FBI and he was protecting her identity. BS. This made me laugh so hard. This is what serial killers say in every true crime podcast or show I've ever seen. And trust me, no one cares about government agents as FBI anymore. I work for the government, and FBI isn't as prestigious as it used to be. In fact, we're all seen as the enemy. Not stay home and reinforce your boundary. Not stay home. Yep, your grandpa's definitely got dementia. I'd mind no medical degree can spot it just that easily. Incidentally, how much did you say he was leaving all of you in the will? And is it cash or property? If your parents are really that desperate to marry your sister off despite all the red flags, or are already all in on whatever business opportunity Miles has pitched to them, that's their issue to deal with. Yours is focusing on your new family, and you set the guest list. Period. I agree. I'm worried about OP's sister's safety if even her own parents are giving this potential grifter a pass on so many flags. Not stay whole OP, but please stick to your guns until you are 100% positive this dude is safe. Keep your family protected.